Okay, Shalom Akim, Kahalayim La Yahaba Shim Yashaba Shin Hakudash, and double honors to the great and apostles. Thadi how Thadi Shah for the strength of the Lord to make this video, and Yaratazar they also find it edifying, which means the intention is to build up your knowledge as I also go through this history lesson. So really, this is the part 2, really from the other video, but of course, in the grand scheme of the series, this is really part 12. There's the previous video being part 11, and then this video being part 12, focusing on Gad. I was talking on Sitting Bull in the previous video, Jumping Badger, that was his former name, and really how he killed a buffalo, and of course eventually rose up in the ranks within the Gadite alliances, the CX alliances, and pretty much we're reading on him, and also we're reading on another Gadite who's similar to him called Crazy Horse. So that's where I left off at here. So I'm gonna continue on in continue to Crazy Horse, because he also joined with Sitting Bull in order to really fight off Esau Edom when these Edomites were trying to claim that area of Montana, and that area of where the CXs were, so which again the CXs are just to re-establish this point, the CXs are the Lakota tribe, Dakota, and Nakota as well. So Lakota, the one beginning with the LA, was the one where Sitting Bull was from. So now on to I'm gonna read about Crazy Horse again, then I'm gonna just continue from there. So again, Native American history book, Captivating History, those are the authors there. So and it's chapter 15, which is named Sitting Bull Fighting Despite the Odds. As you can see here, right here, fighting despite the odds, Sitting Bull. So anyway, so I'm gonna continue on the page that I left off at, which is page 95, latter paragraph. It says Crazy Horse was another Lakota CX chief, so he was part of the Lakota sect within that CX Gadite alliance. His history somewhat parallels Sitting Bull's. He killed a buffalo at 12 years old. After witnessing the brutal killing of a CX, he was trying to mediate an argument by a soldier. He joined the fight against the U.S. military, and it's a similar story to Sitting Bull, where Sitting Bull he killed a buffalo I believe at the age of 14. Let me just double check over here in the page. Actually, no, he did it at a much younger age. I mentioned in the previous video that Sitting Bull, Jumping Badger, his former name, before it was changed to Sitting Bull, when he killed a buffalo when he was 10. But right now, Crazy Horse, he killed a buffalo when he was 12. So, you see the pattern of Gadites, Gadite being that warrior tribe. It says, after witnessing the brutal killing of CX, he was trying to mediate an argument by a soldier. He joined the fight against the U.S. military. He became a chief at 24 years of age and refused to resettle after the Fort Laramie Treaty, which again, the Fort Laramie is just one of the many treaties that Esau had in order to, specifically for Fort Laramie, that was just to control the land region which Gadites were residing in. But Gad didn't want to give it up as well. So it wasn't just Reuben putting up a fight. Gadites were also putting up a fight as well. At least certain of them, especially the CX alliance of the Gadites. And that says a Crazy Horse and his followers ignored the requirement to report to the U.S. government following the illegal activities of prospectors entering their land. It says the movements and tactics of his men were instrumental in helping defeat Crook the week before. And this is talking about General George Crook. So, another one of those Edomites that tried to, again, take up Gad's land. So 8 days after the defeat of Crook, General Custer initiated an attack on Sitting Bull and his warriors, opting to strike them while the warriors were on their own territory. Following the defeat of Crook, Crazy Horse and his warriors joined Sitting Bull. So within that CX alliance, well, even more specific, within the Lakota portion of the CX alliance, because as I said, it consists of the Lakota, the Dakota, and Nakota as well. So one of them being Yankee, the other one being Santee, and the other one, Lakota, being Teton, if I recall correctly. But I mentioned it in the previous video. So it says, following the defeat of Crazy Horse and his warriors joined Sitting Bull. They coordinated their movements as Sitting Bull attacked Custer. From the front, Crazy Horse and his warriors joined from the north and the west, and Chief Gall attacked from the south and east. So they were united there. I remember they had about 15 to 12,000 warriors. Yeah, it said June 1876, Sitting Bull had helped assemble 12,000 to 15,000 warriors. And of course, that's when he was facing General George Crook. So even from that alone, that was a lot of troops, or a lot of warriors from Gad. 12,000 and 15,000 warriors. Between 12,000 to 15,000 warriors. All right, continuing on. The battle did not last 30 minutes and resulted in the complete annihilation of Custer. Two of his brothers, one of his nephews, and his brother-in-law, and all of the men under him. It is estimated that, including their scouts, a total of 268 US soldiers died in the battle. So they weren't ready for what God had in store for them. There were 55 who were injured but alive, but when it ended, it was clear that Custer was vastly overestimated his abilities and underestimated how many natives he was facing. He also failed to account how angry the Native Americans were after his illegal entry into their lands and his attempt to kill them on their own lands. You see, so of course, Jake didn't want, when I say Jake, I'm referring to the Gadites. They didn't want Esau to just come up and just be taking up the land and trying to control them. No, they weren't going to tolerate that nonsense. So yeah, they put up a fight as well. They put up a decent fight too. So following the victory, Sitting Bull felt obligated to point out what should have been obvious. Let no man say that this was a massacre. So this is a quote, by the way, from Sitting Bull. Again, what's his name? Let me read his name. I think his Native American name was Tatanka Ayotake, or Tatanka Iyotake, which means Sitting Bull. Again, it says Buffalo Bull sits down, so Sitting Bull. Now this is his quote. It says, "Let no man say that this was a massacre. They came to kill us and killed themselves." And it's true. God was saying the plain truth, man. All these generals, you got George Crook, they have the flipping General Custer as well. And what's the other one that was mentioned here too? You had I mentioned George Crook already. What's the other one? I could have sworn there was another one too. Hold on. But yeah, General George Crook. There was the General Custer as well. Oh yeah, it's pretty much two of them predominantly, General Custer and George Crook as well. So yeah, they're the ones who invaded Gad. Gad wasn't trying to cause them no trouble. It's like, just stay away, let us have our land, and you'll be fine. When you came to invade at their own territory, that's what happened. So US soldiers had to die because of that. So Custer had vastly overestimated his own abilities and those of the men he was to fight. Still, Sitting Bull knew that the loss of the American troops would be met with retaliation, despite the fact that the soldiers had been the initial aggressors. So he was expecting that, the fight back or the response from the American army, American generals. So both chiefs would continue to keep their people free, knowing that the US government would never honor their agreement and would respond to justify killing of Costa and his men, the chiefs took their people in their different directions. So let's see, as it says here, Crazy Horse returned with his people to Rosebud River. They were eventually defeated and he surrendered in 1877. So that's Crazy Horse, the one who had a similar backstory to Sitting Bull. So he surrendered in 1877. It says the US promised him a new, as part of the surrender, the US promised him a new reservation, which was another lie. So of course, Esau trying to sell comfort to Jake. You'll be good if you just surrender. As the scriptures say, never trust thine enemy. Might as well get that right now. It's a frequent precept that we get, but it stands strong. So this is Sirach chapter 12 and verse 10. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness, which means, the enemy's nature does not change. Like the way you realize, oh, there's still rust on this particular metal, you try and clean it up or whatnot, but it still gets rusty. The same way the wickedness is still dominant in Esau Edom. Alright, so continue on. It says, Crazy Horse ended up taking his sick wife off of the reservation where they had been sent after the surrender in an attempt to get her the care she needed from her people who lived 40 miles away from the reservation. Since he had not gained permission first, Crazy Horse was taken into custody when it became obvious that they planned to place him in the stockade. He began to fight back. A soldier ran him through with a bayonet and he died before the next morning. Sitting Bull fared only slightly better. So, point is, even from those battles that Gad was going through, they got weaker with time as well. Hence why they surrendered, man. There was the similar thing with Red Cloud. Red Cloud, getting weaker, and he had to. God would have probably said that these leaders sold out, but they did what they could, man. That's the thing. They did what they could, to hold out. And really, the ones that died, died after fighting long enough. They're the ones who held their integrity, such as Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull. And I'm gonna get to that, but hold on, let me get this oh yeah, actually that's another precept as well. Let me get this, because God knew that Esau wasn't gonna keep up with that Fort Laramie Treaty, to be specific. So of course this is just a simple precept that's linked to that point. Let's get this part. This is Job chapter 13 and verse 4. But ye are forgers of lies, ye are all physicians of no value. The key part, the key phrase within that is, but ye are forgers of lies. So they create lies. Esau even creates lies. Because he's saying, alright, let's make a treaty between God and Edom. But Edom ain't upholding his part of the treaty. And God knew that Esau was not going to uphold his end of the bargain. So rightfully so, God didn't trust their enemy, and they knew their enemy too. At least in this moment of time, in the 19th century, which is also known as the 1800s. Alright, where is it? Alright, so continuing on, it says, escape to Canada, a return, and his final year. So this is another section of the chapter. Sitting Bull knew that the US government would never honor his word or treaties. You see, God still got that intelligence to know that, they're the enemy. And they were now after him and his people, following the loss of an overconfident Custer in an attempt to keep his people free. Sitting Bull led them to Canada, where they were able to remain for 4 years without the constant threat from the US government. However, they could not stay, and they ended up surrendering to the US and returned to areas closer to their ancestral lands. Surrendering to the US in 1881, Sitting Bull now only had 44 men and 143 women and children left under his care. He was held as a prisoner for 2 years. So imagine, like earlier on, we mentioned about 12,000 to 15,000 warriors to fight. What's this guy's name? General George Crook. You know, the one who had the U.S. Army to invade him, man. You know, so that was in June 1876, as I'm reading right now. You know, 12,000 to 50,000 warriors. Imagine going from 12,000 to 50,000 warriors, and then over the time, as Esau's weakening you, then battles and invasions. He's only got 44 men and 143 women and children under his care. So he's been weakened, man. And then you know what part that's what I was reading about. I just read it. I read it ahead of time in the previous video, but now I'm actually reading it now because it matches the moment. Just hold on. Right, so this is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 62. And ye shall be left few in number, whereas ye were as the stars of heaven for multitude, because thou wouldest not obey the voice of the Lord Yahweh thy power. And it shall come to pass that as the Lord Yahweh rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so the Lord Yahweh will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught, and ye shall be plucked from off the land whither thou go to possess it. So, you know, as God migrated, you know, into those lands, of course, as they enter those lands, the thing is, Esau Edom would then come again to then trouble him, man. You know, obviously, northern tribe going through the Assyrian captivity too. Yaratazar eventually, I'm going to do some more studying on that aspect, so that I can add it to, this series as well. You know, the Assyrian captivity of the northern kingdom. But that's for another day. This one's just really talking about the more recent events of Gad and Reuben. So of course the point is that, you know, wherever the Most High would have sent Gad, you know, that's where Esau Edom would then come to try and pluck us off out of the land. So he used Esau Edom to remove our authority over the land there. You know, specifically Gad and Reuben in this case. Right, so yeah, that's the key point there. And let me see, there's one more thing I need to read. Yeah. So it says he was held a prisoner for 2 years. Let me skip on to the main part now. So it says in 1886, Sitting Bull returned to his people. The ghost dance. So, you know, there was a sun dance. I believe there was a sun dance that was mentioned previously. You know, pertaining to idols again. Yep, there's the sun dance ceremony, and now there's the ghost dance as well. So it says that the ghost dance. So in 1886, Sitting Bull returned to his people. So after, went through that 2 years of prison and whatnot. Hold on, let me actually check something. 1881. But after going through his prison sentence, in 1886, Sitting Bull returned to his people. The ghost dance movement was growing, and the US government failed to understand its point. Fearing that such a fearsome leader, Sitting Bull, would persuade his people to act against the US government, they sent soldiers to arrest Sitting Bull without any ground. So this celebration, this movement, ghost dance, Esau thought that was some kind of a threat from Sitting Bull. So that's how much even Esau feared God, man. Esau feared God. They feared God and Reuben. Now there was a struggle during, fearing that such a fearsome leader would persuade his people to act against the US government. They sent soldiers to arrest Sitting Bull without any grounds. There was a struggle during the arrest, and Sitting Bull was shot multiple times. He died from the wounds and was buried near Fort Yates. Fort Yates. his people exhumes his remains in 1953 and returns his body near to the place where he was born. So yeah, that's really the key part, man. So what is Gad and Reuben? They were really fighting, but of course I'm talking about Gad in this video here. So let me get this final preset Yaratazar, and then I'm gonna close it out. Because the same way, the Most High had the curse upon us for us to be less in our land, as we read in Deuteronomy 28 and verse 62 to 63, to diminish in number. It's the same way, because I mentioned that because of the simple fact that he went from 12,000 to 15,000 warriors to about 44 men and 143 women and children. That's a great diminishment right there. So that's like a representation of the curses being applied upon Gad, to be specific. So let me get this preset and close it out. So Jeremiah 49. Hold on. So Jeremiah 49 and starting from verse 13. Jeremiah 49 and 13. For I have sworn by myself, saith the Lord Yahweh, that Bozrah shall become a desolation, a reproach, a waste, and a curse, and all the cities thereof shall be perpetual waste. And that's talking about Esau, Edom. Predominantly that will be reflected in Babylon when the nuclear missiles hit. So in verse 14, I have heard a rumor from the Lord Yahweh of an ambassador is sent unto the heathen, saying, gather you together and come against her and rise up to battle. In Jeremiah 50 as well, it talks about, the other nations also gathering to invade to invade America as well. Russia, and its allies, and of course the other nations such as the EU and the NATO allies as well. They're going to go against America. In fact, hold on, just bear with me. I'm just going to try and get a quick preset based on that. Right, so this is Jeremiah 50 and verse 3. It says, for out of the north, which again is reference to Russia and its allies, there cometh up a nation against her, which shall make her land desolate, and none shall dwell therein. Again, as I mentioned before, it's referring to the nuclear missile strike in America, and that land will be desolate, completely destroyed, and no one will be inhabited apart from, of course, the creatures that feed on the dead, like the crows and the ravens and whatnot. So it says, and none shall dwell therein. They shall remove and they shall depart, both man and beasts. So that place really is going to be desolate, man. Completely destroyed. So anyways, back to Jeremiah 49. Jeremiah 49 and verse 14 again. I've heard a rumor from the Lord Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent unto the heathen, saying, gather ye together and come against her. That her is talking about Babylon, Esau, Edom, and which is aka America. And it says and rise up to the battle. Verse 15 is the key part. Jeremiah 49 and 15. For lo, I will make thee small among the heathen and despised among men. So the same way, the Gadads were reduced in number in this example when they were fighting against, General Crook and also General Custer as well. There's the same way they're going to be diminished in a grander scheme when it comes to their kingdom. And also Esau will be diminished in number too. They'll be the ones getting weaker. So the curses are going to flip on them. So that's really the point, Akim. Yaratazar, that you've got some information, you've been built up in the knowledge, specifically about Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse, which are really the main ones. Of course, I mentioned about Red Cloud, but notice how they got certain names that really are a reflection of their behaviors, their characters, or their past achievements. That's the way God rolled, which again you can see that as an echo of Israelite custom with when they name their children. Such as Moses. He was named which Moses is Mashah in the thing in the ancient Hebrew, which means to draw out. as in to draw out of the water. And water, of course, is mayam in the ancient Hebrew. So, of course, pertaining to what happened to Moses, that's how he was named. The same way Gad was also named based on their achievements and their behaviors and personality. So, Israel, they had echoes of their customs in the past, but in the modern day context. So, anyways, that was the book there. It's not finished, but if there's anything worth getting again, I think there's a few more chapters left. But yeah, if there's anything that's worth actually making a video on Yaratazar, then I don't mind doing it. Then eventually I'm gonna have to get another book as well and do another history lesson. I think I said I was gonna get on the Latin tribe soon, so I'm gonna do that soon. But Yaratazar, that you're edified, this is the book again, Native American history, captivating history. That's the authors, and you learn some stuff about Gad, man. The Gadites, the so-called Native American Indians, the Seminole Indians, which are referred to as which are really Reuben, the Reubenites. There are a certain portion of the Native American Indians. Once more, I'm just repeating it, just to get that point across and emphasized. All right, so Shalom, Yabashim Shai Brakathar, and Yaratazar that he found it edifying, and double honest agreement with the apostles. Shalom.